So, I've got this new idea for a show. It's about a girl who grows up on a farm and just loves the lifestyle. Corn, wheat, oats, you name it. But her family's farm is struggling, so she decides to go to school to learn the newest, cutting-edge techniques. She gets accepted to a college in the big city and has plenty of hilarious hijinks while also learning some real crop strats. So, what do you think? What's up, guys? Today I want to dispense some kernels of truth. This conspiracy is a bit of a maze, but together I think we can pop it wide open. But you better not get shocked, because this one can be pretty corn-fusing. We're going to analyze how we got into this mindset in the first place. Farming can be a difficult job. Not just the labor, but also the economics. The demand for most agricultural products is pretty inelastic. That means that the quantity that people buy doesn't change very much even if the price changes a lot. Or in other words, people won't buy a lot more food just because it's cheaper, at least on a societal level. Similarly, the supply is also pretty inelastic, at least within one growing season. Once you've planted your crop, you might end up with a great harvest or a poor one based on factors that are mostly outside your control, like the weather. Because of this, the prices can vary wildly. The farmers want to sell their entire harvest, but since the demand is inelastic, the price needs to drop a lot to do so if they have too much. Sometimes they might make less money selling a crop at the market price than it costs to grow it. And if there's a bad harvest, it's not like they can magically produce more corn instantly, so this can cause prices to rise. But even then, the actual amount of corn sold could be low enough that it's still not really profitable. Because of this, and also because of more specific historical issues like the Dust Bowl, the US government introduced subsidies. Initially, this meant that they set a certain minimum price that a farmer would earn from their land, even if it wasn't farming anything. This provided both a more stable income and allowed the land to recover somewhat from over-farming, one of the reasons the land was eroded enough to create such dust storms in the first place. But through years of new laws and edits, in the 90s we ended up with direct payments. That's pretty much what it sounds like. The government would pay farmers directly based on what their land could grow. Since this wasn't dependent on the market price at all, it guaranteed a certain amount of income. This certainly solved the initial problem of profits varying wildly from year to year, but in the process it meant that farmers were encouraged to make their farms larger and larger, pushing us in the direction of industrialized farming and high-demand crops like corn. Direct payments have since been somewhat phased out in favor of crop insurance, which guarantees a certain price for a crop or a certain overall level of income. It's arguably an improvement, but it still has many of the same issues, including encouraging production regardless of the immediate demand, and conflicting with some other more environmentally friendly subsidies. So, because of all the subsidies, the magnitude of corn production really popped off the charts. We eventually had more corn than we knew what to do with. At the same time, scientists were developing new corn products. One of the biggest that we know today is high fructose corn syrup. Cornstarch is extracted from the cob and then exposed to acids and enzymes in order to convert the existing sugars into fructose, or plant sugar, though some of them do remain glucose. These are both monosaccharides, very simple sugars, and if the two of them bond, they can form sucrose, which is the table sugar that most people are familiar with. The resulting syrup then may be produced in order to include different ratios of fructose and glucose. High fructose corn syrup is used as an added sweetener in many products like sodas, though due to consumer distaste, many companies have begun to phase it out. Many people seem to prefer sucrose, or real sugar, though of course this is up to personal preference. If you want to know more about that, check out Beaten to the Punch, one of my previous videos. Whatever your personal feelings about it are, it is where a lot of our corn ends up going. However, it goes far beyond just syrup. More things made from corn include E85 ethanol gasoline, toothpaste, makeup, spark plugs, tires, aspirin, and paint. Some of these formulas might have been developed even without these ample waves of grain, but they certainly became much more useful because of them. And in addition, much of America's livestock is corn-fed, including cattle, sheep, pigs, and chickens. When it comes to composition, America's groceries are starting to look more and more like my punchlines. Now, don't call me an angry cob, because the purpose of this is not to corn down. But it is a fact that the government has directly contributed to corn's ubiquity, and caused some products to exist that probably wouldn't have been competitive otherwise. When it was introduced, E85 gas, a mixture of traditional gasoline and ethanol distilled from corn, was less efficient than its competitors. It might not have ever gotten off the ground if not for such corn. These days, though, some vehicles have been engineered to run more efficiently on ethanol. Corn syrup gained a huge market share in some food industries without a lot of people even realizing it, though they're a lot more aware of it now. A lot of this never would have happened without the government's tactic, which is why I call this a conspiracy. It's not necessarily harmful, but it is a Cobb strat. So, this new show, I love it. It's got real heart, but it's also modern. But what do you call it? Unicorn. Thanks for watching. If you're interested in hearing more of my ramblings, hit that subscribe button to keep up to date with my newest blunders. If you want to get a feel for how well society is tricking you, there's a full conspiracy playlist linked in the description and on screen. I've got 10 of them now, including this one, and each one contains some real juicy details. Or syrupy, as the case may be.